Hi, my name is Jim Alessi. I'm a database expert for Atlas Systems, and today's presentation will be on upgrading your database to Oracle 12c. Things we'll be covering is why even do the upgrade to 12c? What am I going to get for it? What are the various ways I can do my upgrade? And the biggest one I think most of you are concerned about are how can I ensure that if I take on this upgrade, that I'm going to be 100% successful? And Atlas Systems can help partner with you and ensure that this upgrade is 100% successful. Some of the biggest reasons, just, you can read the bullet points, but why upgrade? Definitely their stability factor going up to 12. Functionality, there's some new functionality that was only available formerly on the Exadata platforms, now are available, on your servers that you have in-house or thinking about purchasing. And probably one of the bigger reasons is the cost of supporting the old 11 version, versus going to 12c. Um, some other reasons are, Oracle maintains, a direct upgrade ability for 3 major releases. So if you're back on 10.2 and newer, you'll be able to upgrade directly. But if you're older than 10.2 or off a patch version, that upgrade ability is going to be non-existent for you. Also, the support of the latest Oracle products. Um, you know, that's one of the bigger things. If you're looking at taking advantage of something that's in EBS 12, you're not going to get that functionality or be able to install that 11. You'll have to upgrade to 12c. A couple terms that I'm going to talk through are upgrades and migrations. And when you talk about upgrades, that's one term. When we talk about migrating, that's another term. In the next few slides, I'll be going through that with you. So as we're going through these slides, a couple things I want you to think about as we're going through them is, how is my infrastructure? Are my servers that I'm currently on, are they supported with 12c or by 12c? Is my, are they owned or leased? Are they fast enough? Are they big enough? Do they have enough memory? SAN also, if you get a big enough database, you may be leasing your SAN, or you may be leasing your SAN in general because it's more cost effective. And also, do you have enough space in that SAN? Am I maxed out? Do I have enough room for my growth? And the last thing that some people kind of forget about are my web servers or my application servers that are sitting out there. Do they have enough memory? Are they running the fastest network cards in my network? As we're going to go through this upgrade, should I be looking at those pieces to make sure I'm not creating a bottleneck or a throughput, a problem for me? Upgrades, when we're talking about upgrades, we're talking about taking the hardware that you currently have and just installing 12c to it. There are positives to that. If my hardware was bought big enough and it's new enough and it supports the 12c version, that may be an option for you. But if you're sitting there going, my servers are kind of old, maybe I want to go to a rack install instead of a single instance. A lot of things to play into this when we're planning out this migration or upgrade to 12c. So maybe we may be a Windows operating system right now, and we're looking to going to Linux. So that's really the big two differentiators in between when we start talking about upgrades and migrations. Typical actions that are taken part of an upgrade. We're going to add and drop columns. We may be creating new packages or procedures. We may be modifying existing packages. We may be dropping database objects altogether because they're obsolete, they're no longer used. We're cleaning up our database a little bit. We may be changing some rules, roles, users' privileges, things like that. And we may be using, modifying other parts of the database as well. The term migration really applies to when we're starting to not just put on new software. We're looking at our servers, we're looking at our storage architecture. We may be changing from, an older character set to UTF-8 because that's really what our web servers or our web environment performs. We may be looking also at doing some schema changes. Are we going to start partitioning off some of our larger tables so those queries don't take as long? Or do we have some type of compliancy requirement that we have to look at using encryption, or even possibly compressing indexes and things like that for performance? So when we start talking about that, we're really looking at using the word migration versus upgrade. Um, you know, uh, Selecting the method on how you're going to do your upgrade will probably be one of the most challenging points that you have. Back through my experience, the only way you really did it is you went out and you exported your database and you imported it into your new database. But times have changed, and there's a lot of new things out there that can actually help you, plan and test that deployment. To make sure that you're successful. Now, Oracle, this is off the Oracle site, and Oracle actually has a pretty good chart here as far as what version you're currently on, and what type of method that you could use. So this chart is really helpful when you get back and you start doing your analysis. Can I just do a direct upgrade? I'm not changing out my hardware, so I'm just going to do a direct upgrade. Oh, sorry, you're on 10.2.04. You got to use another method, or you have to patch yourself up the whole way to 11.2.02 to be able to do that direct support. That direct upgrade. And that may be something that you don't want to do, that you're going to have to run through all those patch versions, have to test each one of those patch versions, versus just going directly to 12c. So some of the new methods that they've come out with, I don't know if you've seen these or not, but the database upgrade assistant, excuse me, that's been around for a little bit, but they've really enhanced it here in 12c, as well as giving it a command line interface. So anything that you can do from the database assistant, you can also do from the command line. So you could actually script your update or your migration or your update or upgrade. Some of the other less notable ones are the full transportable table spaces and table space upgrades. Have not had great success with those personally, but they are available, and if they're tested and planned, that may be an option for you. And then there's the new data pump, which came out in 10, as well as the old import-export utility that still exists out there for you to use. So, we've answered the questions. We figured out whether we're doing an upgrade or we're going to do a migration. Some things that you want to look at also are, do I have an Oracle application, such as Enterprise Business Suite or Life Sciences package or some other package that Oracle produces, or do you have a third-party developed package, or do you have an in-house developed custom-written application? The other part of this is selection of the upgrade method. And one thing I can't stress upon enough in our work with our 12c upgrades has been really getting that sandbox environment. When we start talking about a sandbox environment, we're talking about either the server class that we're going to go to in production when we do roll out, or a match to what we currently have in production that we can do one-to-one testing on, or apples-to-apples testing. If your application, was developed by Oracle, it would be suggested that, you upgrade that application at the same time that you're doing your 12c upgrade. If you're a third-party application, and, you don't own the rights to the source code, you really need to contact the vendor and see what they suggest. Do they have a matching version for 12c, or do they have a series of patches that will get you up to 12c? In-house applications are a little bit more tricky because what you really need to do is inventory your code base. And it's just not your procedures and your functions. It's going to be your triggers. It's going to be your views. If you have materialized views, if you're using the queuing functionality with inside Oracle as well, you really need to take a look at all that code, inventory it, do an inventory on it, see if you're using any of the system procedures that are provided as part of the database, um, and looking at for what's changed, what's been deprecated, what's been moved from one package to another. And Oracle has some really good website information out there to help you do that. Here in Atlas, we've been through a couple of these already, and we've helped individuals do that in-house inventory of their code base. Um, Selecting the server to become your sandbox. The big thing there is making sure it's either the same as what you're currently on, or it's what you're going to when you migrate to that next server class, that next server machine. Um, you know, the big things, are testing this upgrade methodology, documenting your steps, determining how long it's going to take, identifying any issues, resolving those issues, or it may be, this isn't going to work for us. We're going to have to find a different method to do this. And here at Atlas, our consulting or our analysis can help you come up with the best solution, and maybe keep that circular thing there. Oh, this didn't work. This worked. And you may have to use one method for one part of your database and another method for another part of your database, depending on what you're doing. And again, retesting this method until everyone is comfortable with the process, so you are ensured that you are successful with your upgrade. Custom apps, or apps that have custom extensions, even with Oracle EBS, you could have written some custom extensions for yourself to do some things, or you have a whole custom application. The biggest part there is going to be inventorying your code base, like I talked about in the previous slide, because signatures do change. Procedures do move around in packages, and you may have to make some modifications to your custom code or not. If you're not using something that's changed, you're golden. It compiles, you're good. It's one of those things that you think you've caught everything, and during your testing, you're going to do some you're going to compile the database, and you're going to find something that you missed. But the biggest thing is getting those changes, getting your database stable to where you have a clean compile of everything inside the database. And this is also a good time to clean up your database as well. You may have some packages and some procedures and functions out there, and views and triggers that you don't remember why you wrote them, and they're not being used anymore. Let's get them out of the database during this sandbox testing as well, so we can do some house cleaning. Now, one part that we've seen here at Atlas and in some of our endeavors with our clients have been, we're so concentrated on the database that we really don't think about the other things that connect to the database. We're familiar with our Oracle Web Forms and things like that. We know those are going to work, because we've paired them up, we've matched them up with their version, and we're good. But there are other things out there. What about the guy what about the employee that uses Microsoft Excel with a JDBC driver to come in and query the database? Oracle drivers for our developers, JDBC drivers for Java applications. If some of you use queuing, do I have a Java JMX out there, or do I use MSMQ or WebSphere or something like that? So as we're going through this, kind of inventory of our code, we also need to think about those other parts that touch our database. Those external applications or external customers that come into the database. Regression testing. I know from experience here, regression testing is sometimes not thought of while we're doing one of these migrations, but now is really a good time with the new features and functionality that are part of 12c. It's a really good time to take a step back and really do regression testing on our total application, whether that be Oracle EBS, whether that be a third-party application, or something written in-house. It's really a good time to make sure that what's functioning in production functions in our sandbox at 100%. The other part of this is, some of us have some APIs written against our systems, whether that just be a procedure call, whether we're generating XML, whether we've used, the HTTP stuff or the SOAP messaging stuff with inside of Oracle. Now's a good time to take a look at those and make sure those are tested as well. Our current production environment, the one thing that we need to make sure of when we take a look at this and making sure that we're successful is, we look at our procedures, functions, views, triggers. We look at the APIs that are either, using Oracle's internal HTTP stack or SOAP, or the queuing, whatever it may be, but we're really testing those as well. We're testing file load times and file processing times as well. Sandbox testing, again, we're looking at testing the whole, the whole environment, not or the whole ecosystem of our database. We're looking at, really testing, walking through things, because one of the things that you see, and what we've seen in Atlas, when we're coming off a 10 database and we're going to 12, plans change, things change, indexes, how they work. Yes, it's an index, but sometimes, things have changed a little bit as we're going up through versions, and we may need to tweak some of our code to get the performance that we're looking for. Also, our file load times, whether that's, SQL loaded in or ETL'd, what we want to do is we want to take file A from production, run that in production, get some timings on it, and run file B or file A, not file B, on our sandbox. We want to be comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. The other thing is, making sure that we are processing, as I said before, that if we're processing in production, take that same file and process that down, in Q or in our sandbox environment. The other thing is, you know, our websites and things like that. Let's walk through the same steps that people do on a daily basis. Not let's just use random data. Let's actually take some real data and pump that through there if we can. After we've been through all these steps of testing and documenting, we've reached a point of decision. Patches to the OS, are those 100% up to speed? Are our drivers up to date? We should have our steps documented, and Atlas can help you with that documentation of those steps as we help you through this process as well. So, basically there will be a deployment plan. There will be a step-by-step checklist developed to make sure that when we go to that rollout in production, that we've tested everything thoroughly and we've documented those steps. Application installation is the same thing. If we're upgrading an Oracle app, great. We know we're compatible with 12c, but if we have something either in-house or a custom extension written or a third party, we need to make sure that we have those either new procedures there, a column with change, whatever it may be. We have those fixes in script form that we can apply on the night of our production deployment. And really, two questions that you have to ask after you've been through all your testing and your regression and your timings, is the functionality that I have unbroken? What I was doing on 11, am I still doing on 12, and is it working the same? And you have to have the answer yes, obviously, or you need to find out what's broken and get her fixed. And then the biggest one, I think, what we're hearing here at Atlas is, I went through this upgrade, I put the software on, and my performance just isn't what it was. And we'll get through some test cases, some case studies here in the back that clients actually tried to go off and do the install by themselves, and then came to Atlas and partnered with us to help them through this, through the upgrade and migration process. And we'll get to those in a little bit here later in the presentation. So an idea on timeline here, timeline of existing migration to new hardware or an OS version. Excuse me. The upgrade methodology testing on average is about 7 days. Have seen that go out to about 10 because we did some homework, or the client did some homework. They thought we could go down this route with the upgrade or the migration. But really, we're looking at about 7 days to really get that migration, or upgrade process. How does it work? What are our steps? How do we document it? How long is it going to take, etc. About 7 days. On average, regression testing, we're looking at about 14 days to actually go through and regression test, our application, whether it be, Oracle, a third party, or an in-house. And then probably the last step, which is metrics testing, and that's where we're really taking, the file that was processed in production and running that back into QA or back into our sandbox. The other thing is maybe we have APIs that are XML files that come at us through an API. We need to take that same file and process that back into the sandbox environment, as well as our web testing or our forms testing. Running that as it was in production, going through production like or production exactly alike, data, and running that back through into our sandbox, and make sure our timeline is matching what our current production is, or better than what current production is. And what we're hoping is you're going to see better than current production. Some of these have taken shorter amounts of time, and some of them have taken larger amounts of time. But again, this is just kind of a baseline of how long what your time frame's looking like to actually do a migration to a new hardware platform. Now, these are the two case studies I talked to you a little bit about earlier. The electrical processing manufacturer, their upgrade just failed. They tried to go and do it themselves. They thought they had the in-house experience to do that, and it failed on them. And they actually came to Atlas. They weren't clients of ours. Came to us, and we sat down at the table with them, went through an analysis process with them, worked with them on their upgrade methodology, worked with them on their regression testing, and got them to be a successful 12C upgrade. Another case study is a university went off and did their upgrade in place upgrade of 12G to 11G to 12C. After 2 weeks, they had to roll back. Again, not clients of Atlas, but came to Atlas looking for help. And we were able to get them back up in their 12C environment with their performance where they were looking for it to be. And that goes back to not a huge amount of time spent in testing in either one of these case studies. And here at Atlas, that is going to be your key to whether your upgrade is successful or your migration is successful. To 12C is the amount of time that you really spend, in that methodology of figuring out what method works best for me to do this upgrade or migration, and as well as what time I invest in my testing, and really getting down into that, not just the functionality testing to make sure things work, but getting into that metrics testing. Is my performance the same on the database version I'm coming from to this new version? And if there's not, let's take a look and see what's going on. And that's what these two companies came in and were looking for us. Well, the university and a company came looking to us here at Atlas for help to get them back onto their 12c where they needed to be to take advantage of some of these new upgrades or updates and functionality to the product. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Chris.